Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed, but we are joined by a very special guest and fellow podcaster, Freddie Hamm of the HTWeAre Podcast. Thank you for joining us, Freddie.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Pretty sure this is the first time all four of us are on at the same time.
Yeah.
Usually one of us isn't there. It usually ends up being me, but that's because I'm terrible with time management. So
you got a lot on your plate. But look, we have a lot to get over to go over with you guys, and the title of this episode is the quarterback discussion. So none other than the latest news that came about today is that Deshaun Watson, Rappaport is reporting that about a week or so ago, Deshaun Watson approached the Texans organization, told them he wants to get out. He wants to be traded away, and there are some links, fellas. So, Freddie, do you think it's going to happen?
Do I think it's going to happen? Oh, I'm not going to say that it's going to happen, but, all the reports are saying that Stafford going to San Francisco is pretty much done. So, I mean, that leaves us in a spot, man, and we got the number 19 pick. We're in no man's land if we're looking for QB, and then, nothing's a sure thing. So I don't know if all these reports are true about us going hard, man. I mean, I'm all in for it. I know that it's a really polarizing thing right now among all the fans, but I feel like, if we can get him here, because regardless of what you have to give up for Watson, we get Watson here, we got our franchise QB for at least the next 10 years, period.
Right. You have to imagine Bill O'Brien is sitting somewhere like Mr. Burns. I saw that GIF we put up earlier. He's like, ha, ha, ha. Like he has to be sitting somewhere like, dude, I took a grenade to that organization, and my name is I'm not in prison right now. It's absolutely crazy what Bill O'Brien did to that team, and they could completely be dismantled in one season. I mean, they could literally ship out their best player, and they don't really have much else to go for it. So, Reed, do you think it's going to happen?
Do I think he's coming here necessarily? Yeah. I mean, of course, would we like him to? Yeah. Are they going to go hard after him? I guarantee they're going to talk to him about him. Every team that doesn't have Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers is gonna go ahead and talk to them about acquiring Deshaun
Green
Watson.
Bay might hit him up,
but I don't know. Not with the way Rodgers was talking on Pat McAfee's show the other day. But yeah, I mean, I hope it happens. Look, I know we'd have to give up a lot, but like Freddie said, you're set at the most important position in all of sports for the next 10 years or so if you do that. And I know it's going to suck. You'd have to give up so many first rounders, but look, we've been hitting on these mid rounders. I'm okay with that. With the team we have right now, we have a small window to win with these contracts. I'm all in. I say go for it. That would be amazing. And Stafford's rumored to be going, like you said, San Fran, Indy, Denver, all these places. He's getting talked to by 9 teams. I just go in on somebody, please. Anybody.
But before we get any further, I do have to say congratulations to Coach Rivera. It just got announced about an hour ago that he is cancer-free. Courtney Rivera his daughter tweeted out that they had just left the hospital and got the notification that they are cancer-free. And he also won Coach of the Year. I forget what.
NFC Coach of the Year.
NFC.
It was
for the NFC.
The 101.
Which it
the
should
third
be.
Time?
Yeah. It should be the whole NFL, dude. To be honest, I think he is the Coach of the Year. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care. He didn't catch COVID like Stefanski did, so I feel like he deserves it.
Yeah.
What about you, Hall, with Watson? What's your thought process with that? Everyone has been – it's crazy because just in one day, people are talking about Carr. It was like everyone was talking about Carr from like 9 a.m. until noon, and then it went back to Stafford, and then it went to Watson after the news came out. So where are you standing with Watson? Do you think it's out of the realm of possibility like a lot of people think?
I mean, anything's possible in the NFL. So
anything is possible.
Anything's possible.
It's possible in life, Mike.
You're right, Reed. You're right.
But
that's why he's called Dad.
If I had to put like a percentage on it, I'd probably put like 30% chance of him coming here, just because I don't know if Rivera was going to want to give up all the assets it's going to need to take to acquire him. And I mean, if it was me, I'm definitely 100% like cool with them going all in to get him. Like you said, I've been a Deshaun Watson fan since I was watching college football and like his freshman year, and he came in, and I was like, oh man, this dude's gonna be good. So I've just been following him since then. I mean, he's a baller, and yeah, I would love to see him like go somewhere and like win Super Bowls and do good, which is not going to be Houston ever in life. So yeah, I definitely want to see him like come here because I would go all in for him, but I just don't think that Rivera and the new front office is actually going to put all the resources needed to go in, just because say something goes wrong and like the Alex Smith thing.
Right.
Well, when now we're wrecked for like so many years.
And Watson has been hurt before a couple times.
And he's bounced back, and I know I'm okay with the injury history just because I've seen him bounce back.
I'm just saying it's happened twice.
Yeah, so. It's a new age, and like people tear their ACL and come back like a snap of a finger nowadays.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I would go all in, but if I had to put a percentage on it, I'd put 30% on it as us, just because I think there's a better chance, and there's other teams that were willing to give up more and better resources and better packages than us.
Yeah. Other teams are in a better position, definitely, to acquire them, like the Jets, the Dolphins, some of these teams that they just have higher picks. And what do they need right now?
And
what's Houston going to need? A quarterback.
At the end of the day, he has a no trade clause, so he gets to pick where he wants to go.
Yeah, and he's demanding his way out. So no matter what, he's gone.
Yeah, and that's why I tweeted at him and said, hey, man, just make sure that whatever trade they bring you, just only accept Washington. You know, we got you, man. Just come on over to Washington. Just bring down the price. You know what I'm saying? But that being said, let's move on to our fan questions. And I want to start with Scott Harley's out in the UK. Fantastic guy who has a great question regarding Watson. Hypothetical. Let's say Watson is offered and we must trade a top player as part of the deal. Who would we send and why? And I'll start with you, Freddie.
So top player is, it's kind of it's a relative question. It depends on who you ask as far as top player. I've been on this for a while. You know, I think someone who's worthwhile that they would like, that I'm be willing to part ways with, is Jonathan Allen. I mean, package him. I mean, Jonathan Allen, we give up our first round pick. We have what, two first round picks. I hate the idea of giving up 3 first round picks. If we send them a Pro Bowl caliber player and a leader on defense, and John Allen, who can be the new leader of their defense, you know what I'm saying? Give them a first round this year, a first round next year, and then a second round pick, maybe an extra late round pick on the end somewhere in there. I feel like that is pretty fair value. But again, you know, and it's like, it's like Hall said. I mean, once they get rid of Watson, though, the first person they're looking to replace is their QB. And if, you know, you got to look at where are they going to get that from? Right. What are they going to do with that? Because they're not going to get their next franchise guy with pick number 19, which is why we're willing to get rid of pick number 19. Right. So
they're going to be in our position.
It's just one of those things. But I mean, so I feel like realistically, John Allen, I mean, as far as top players go, I mean, the what makes this difficult is we can't be letting go of our top players because we're looking to bring in that piece that's going to put us over the top with the top players that we have. So it's not like we have a lot of riches to be getting rid of things. No, I mean, that's why we're giving up draft capital, not players.
Right. And it's a fantastic point. What about you, Hall? Hypothetically speaking, if Watson is offered, what would be a top player that you would include in the package for Watson?
I definitely agree with Freddie. I would definitely try to throw Jonathan Allen in there. It's going to be a really, really hard decision, but if they came down to it and they said they wanted Montez Sweat and the sign sealing done, sign it on the dot, I would have to give up Montez Sweat just because at the end of the day, you get that franchise quarterback for the next 10 plus years. You can not easily go back and find another Montez Sweat, but you can find edge rushers.
Yeah, you're not finding somebody that size running
that
fast.
You're not finding another Montez Sweat freak type athlete, but you can find another pass rusher that's opposite Chase Young that's definitely going to win their one-on-ones.
That can do enough, right?
They can do enough to hold down in the defense, and you build around that weakness of losing Montez Sweat. Because at the end of the day, we all know this. Quarterback was number 1 overall out of any position now, offense or defense. You need that quarterback to stabilize your team going forward for the franchise. And at the end of the day, if it costs Montez Sweat, who's an ascending defensive end, I would have to do it.
Yeah, look, in my opinion, I think this is probably the best recipe for Washington to be able to get the Watson deal done, because, what's the one thing you worry? I always bring up this argument because with RG3, he was complaining about how he didn't have anybody around him. He didn't have the O-line around him to protect him and everything. Well, they gave up the haul to bring you in. So you better be good enough without those pieces because they brought you in with giving those away. With Watson, we've seen in Houston from this past year throwing for 4,000 yards, 33 touchdowns, and only, 7 interceptions. Without a lot of weapons, without the great offensive line, he still was able to get the ball out of his hands and make great things happen. And so, in my opinion, sending a haul to a guy like Watson makes a lot of sense, in my opinion. The player that I would ship, honestly, I hate to say it, but the one that moves the needle the most for me is Deshaun Payne. And the reason that I say that, Jonathan Allen kind of has the mold of a Ron Rivera guy. He's a hard worker. He's a team. He'll always go with team first kind of mentality. But he's older. He's about 26, 27. Deshaun Payne's only like 24 years old. So he's more enticing to a team like Houston. And with Matt Ioannidis coming back, you can kind of take from your gold stash, where you're really, really built well at, take from that and be able to make your offense better. Because what was the one position on this team this year that really hampered them progressing? And that was the quarterback position. So if I'm going to be able to bring in a quarterback that is going to be able to transcend this offense and get this team to the next level, you got to be able to take from your strongest to be able to help your weakest position. And so out of everyone, it makes the most sense for me is Deshaun Payne. He has the upside. He can be a dominant pass rusher. You still have Tim Settle back there as well. So that can really hamper the loss of Deshaun Payne, in my opinion. So it's going to take an offseason to be able to get that done. But in my opinion, it's Deshaun Payne. What about you, Reed?
Nah, I got one that's really going to upset you guys.
Don't say
I'm looking at wide receiver.
Don't do it.
Steven Sims Jr. I'm gonna give it. No, I'm just kidding. No, we're all dipping our toes in the same pool here because that's the deepest amount of talent that we have. That's the most depth that we have. We're 4 deep at the interior defensive lineman. Personally, I would imagine that they would want Jonathan Allen the most, but I would also like to keep Jonathan Allen the most. So I would go with Deshaun Payne or Matt Ioannidis. Matt Ioannidis is a Pro Bowler, so I'll go with Ioannidis. I know he just missed this last year, but he's a Pro Bowler. He's a very good interior pass rusher. Similar with Deshaun Payne. Deshaun Payne or Matt Ioannidis is who I'm going with. Kyle, before you talk, let me talk. And I'm just kidding. And so, yeah, that's what I'm going with you, right, with the Tim Settle thing. We're all kind of on the same page. Somebody from the D-line, we're not going to be able to sign them all, keep them all anyway. So if you can go ahead, whoever they want, just take them.
I want to know why you want to keep Allen over Payne, because I'm talking about giving up Allen because I would rather keep Payne.
I would rather keep Jonathan. I think Jonathan Allen's a more complete player in terms of his pass rush, him against the run. If you look at his PFF numbers, I don't like to get too big into PFF, but he was one of the best interior defensive linemen in the entire NFL this past year. And on top of that, like Kyle said, just the leadership, the throwback type player that he is, the Ron Rivera type guy. I think Jonathan Allen is really reaching his ceiling, and he's somebody that's very special in this league and will be for the next few years.
And the reason why I say that, Freddie,
nothing bad against Payne,
is because
got me thinking about this different.
The reason why I say Deshaun Payne over Jonathan Allen is because Jonathan Allen is more inclined to take a team-friendly deal when his contract is up, in my opinion. He kind of has that personality, and also the stats don't pop off the sheet quite like Deshaun Payne's do, and he's younger. So trying to be realistic with a team that would want assets enough to be able to trade Watson, and you have to be able to give them a player that is going to jump off the stat sheet for them. In my opinion, it's Deshaun Payne. He's still very young. You can sign him to your deal in a year or two, and he could really help out that defensive formidable front there for you. And then, because I always think about to the Steelers with the Lev Bell situation, how many times Hall and I have talked about this. What the Steelers did wrong is they didn't trade Lev when he demanded that trade. So What ended up happening is he sat for a year and then left, and they didn't get anything in return. The one thing I'm worried about is keeping this D-line together, and then in a year or two having to make that tough decision of letting a guy walk and not getting anything in return. So if we're going to get anything in return, I would like to be able to get that done now. And if we could get that for Watson, I'm all in for it, and that's why I say Deshaun Payne.
Yeah. You know who I'm trading? I'm trading Cleve. I'm sending Cleve straight to Houston.
Poor Cleve. No, but hey, I'll stick with you. I'll stick with you, Reed.
Poor Cleve.
I'll stick with you because Scott has a second part to this question. Who is a player that would be an absolute no to a trade package with Watson?
I mean, there's a few of them that I could just name. But I mean, Chase Young is an absolute no.
Yep. Mine's
Go ahead.
Terry McLaurin without a freaking doubt.
We all agree on those two for sure.
Obviously. It's a tough one because y'all took the top two. I would probably go, like you guys said, I'd probably go between Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, whichever of the two the front office wanted to keep long term. I would be okay with keeping one of those or letting them go. Whatever the question was, I don't know.
It was who's an absolute no? Who will you not trade for?
No. So I would go between whoever the front office.
The exact opposite of what you just said.
Yeah. All right. In that case, an absolute no. I'd probably go Deron Payne just because he's a little bit younger than Allen right now, and I think that his upside and his ceiling is more than Jonathan Allen. So I'll go Deron Payne.
Makes sense. I'll switch up to Sweat. How about that?
Just
to counter. What about you, Freddie? Is there anybody that comes to mind that you wouldn't be willing to trade that we haven't said yet?
That you haven't said yet that I would not be willing to trade? Yeah. Cameron Curl. I stand Cameron Curl.
I'm a huge Cam Curl guy. Yeah.
You know,
I mean, person also.
Hey, we could all pray.
Absolute no.
We could all pray
get
that
an
they
offer
wanted
for
Landon Collins. If they're like, just give us Landon Collins and a couple firsts, I'd be like, okay, fine. You know, don't twist my arm. Jesus.
If we know that, they know that.
If they would
nobody's gonna want Landon Collins.
He'd go down as the second worst GM ever behind Bill O'Brien.
Right.
Yeah, it'd be off to a great start.
If Bill was there, that would be.
Someone could offer us the Ricky Williams deal for Cameron Curl, and I still would say no deal.
Really? You would still say no to? You would still say no to that?
No.
Oh wow.
Whole draft? No, not worth it.
That's a great one. Tough.
Great question from Scott. Now, Sean has a question for us. Is it time for the Washington football team to take advantage and sign players to cap-friendly deals or possibly sign big names that turn out to be cap casualties in the future, a la, Landon Collins, for example? Well, I'll start with you, Freddie.
I mean, it's so premature to be having this conversation at all. You know, it's really, really, really tough to answer. And we're hypothetically talking about who hypothetically may or may not be available. This is just like, This is ridiculous. We're like third generation don't know what the fuck. So it's like, but we got to get the quarterback thing straight. I mean, I know that it's always about quarterback, but because once you get that guy, then everything else kind of falls into place. And something that people aren't talking about, and I think something that we do need to talk about as well, if we were able to get, a player like Watson in here, once you get Deshaun Watson here, you get a lot of skill players who all of a sudden want to come here, who will strike a better deal with us because they want to come play here because they know that their numbers are going to be better playing with Watson. We go into free agency with the quarterbacks that we have, or a question mark, or who's going to be the quarterback. I mean, if you're, if you're a skill position player, if you're a wide receiver who's trying to figure something out with a 1-year prove it deal, and you're worried about, you don't know if Allen or if Heineke's going to be throwing passes to you, what the heck are you going to do? So, I mean, I think that Washington is going to do the same thing that they did last year as far as, going with not big name guys, prove it kind of deals. I mean, because that's where you get your production. Like, you don't want dudes coming in, they're just going to get a big payday and then they're not going to produce for you, because it happens time and time and time again. So, I mean, Ron's going to want to get his type of guys, and he's got the front office staff now that's one thing that I will say that I do like about him reshaping this entire organization is his image. Is that he's got guys that are all bought into a singular vision and what he wants to do, and they're all going to facilitate that, which is great. I mean, I don't see us going after some huge name, but quite frankly, I mean, there's not going to be a lot of giant names hitting the market as far as wide receiver. I mean, it's not like there's not going to be an Amari Cooper available this offseason. It's not happening.
I think people, there's supposed to be a decent amount, but there's no chance Kenny Golladay, Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, Corey Davis, all those guys hit. There's no way all those guys hit. There's just no way.
No, there's no way.
Chris Godwin here. That would be amazing.
Any of those guys, honestly. I would take it.
Let me preface it by saying this, because I think I get what Sean is essentially saying. And because the Washington football team has $40 million in projected cap space at the moment. And so what he's saying is, should we re-sign our guys to cap-friendly deals now, and then rather than spending in free agency on big names this season, this offseason?
We should absolutely go ahead and extend Terry McLaurin. Like,
Thank you.
Do it.
Yeah.
Why wait? The longer you wait, the
you.
more the price is going to go
Thank
up.
you.
Like I said, again, back to the Watson thing, but we get our franchise quarterback who can be our franchise QB for like the next 10 years. Well, we already got our number one receiver for the next 8 years at least in Terry McLaurin. Like, that's just what it is. So, yeah, go ahead and do it. Especially after this offseason that we're going to have with wide receiver and everything else. And I mean, because the way that the market resets and the way that the cap is not going up within the next couple of years, the way that it has been going up prior to this point. I mean, yeah, it's just like the preemptive thing that you were saying with going ahead and using one of our defensive linemen as a trade asset while we can get something for them. Might as well go ahead and sign or extend McLaurin while we can do it, while we have this money, and then figure out what we'll do with the rest of our cap space, rather than getting to a point where it's like, okay, it's his third year, it's his fourth year. Oh, we have the 5th year option. Okay, now we have $5 million in cap space and we got no room to extend McLaurin.
Yeah, don't want to get put in that kind of scenario. You're absolutely right about that.
And to add on to what you said, if you're a skill position player and you have to worry about a guy who has a tricep for a calf muscle throwing you a ball to get your stats and your numbers up, I think you're going to be like, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's so bad. What about you, Hall? Do you think that they should be using the $43 million in cap space to be able to get these team-friendly deals, or do you want to see that used on some big-name free agents? Because, look, that $40 million seems like a lot, but, you know, Brandon Sheriff alone is on the market probably going to be commanding $15 million per, so that automatically gets brought down to $28 million, and you don't have much left there. So what are you doing there, Hall?
Yeah, it's like you just said. I was just gonna say, what I would do is, or what I want to see them do is, hopefully, re-sign Brandon Sheriff, get him locked up. We can have some continuity on the offensive line for the first time in God knows how long. And with that, rest of the money, kind of, if you can work out a deal for one of the linemen like Jonathan Allen or somebody, see if you can work that out. But I want them to go after one of those mid to level tier 2 type of wide receivers are going to hit the market. The Marvin Joneses, the Curtis Samuels, guys like that they can come in and be a solid number 2 wide receiver opposite Terry McLaurin. So, like, again, I've been saying this so many weeks and so many episodes. Open up this offense. Open up this damn offense. I want to see the ball pass it down the field. I want to see spread the ball around. I want to see speed. So, Marvin Jones, Chris Samuels, one of those tier 2 type of guys, or even a Corey Davis if they can kind of work him into the budget. But he had such an explosive year. I think he's going to get higher in money, but definitely re-sign Brandon Sheriff and, if possible, kind of work out a deal with Jonathan Allen if you can.
Yeah, look, and that's probably the smartest aspect, because I would rather them use their cap space to retain the talent that they do have. But Doc Walker brings up a fantastic point with Brandon Sheriff, and I know that he wasn't directly speaking about Brandon, but what he said is, you know, I'm worried about spending $15 million on a guy that doesn't dominate at that right guard spot. And look, you can mince words or the definition of dominate, you know what I mean? But I understand what he's saying. You know, it's not like he's literally dominating every single snap. You know, he's a very, very good player and the first all-pro that Washington has had since like the mid-90s. So look, he played incredibly well this season, but he's right. I am kind of worried about that, and should we be saving that money to be able, because Sadiq Charles is going to be back next year. Wes Schweitzer stepped in really well at left guard, so you can always just bring someone else in for that right guard spot. And then you can honestly then think about extending Jonathan Allen, Terry McLaurin, and such. So I would much rather see them extend their guys in-house. I'm just worried about Sheriff and what he's going to be long-term.
Well, also Doc's kind of contradicting himself because he said he likes strengthening his strengths.
I know.
So if our strength is kind of the offensive line ascending, wouldn't you want to bring back pretty much the best offensive lineman on our line right now?
Yeah, you hear that, Doc?
Strength.
Just
saying. I know what he was saying. I definitely respect what he was saying, but I'm just saying, like, we got to bring Sheriff back. Like, we need continuity on offensive line. Yeah. That's one of the biggest things, especially if we're going to have a quarterback come here, like a competent quarterback. He's going to need some type of protection in front of him if we actually want to see an explosive offense.
What were you going to say, Freddie?
I would argue against Brandon Sheriff being the best offensive lineman we have. I know I'll get dragged for it because he's all pro, but
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I think Chase Roulier is more valuable than Brandon Sheriff is, to be totally honest with
He
you.
plays a more
And I feel
important
like Morgan Moses has actually played with more consistency.
Yeah.
Has played with more consistency than Brandon Sheriff has. And the issue with the Brandon Sheriff thing that I have is paying him X amount of money. When you're paying elite money for a great player, not necessarily an elite player, it's just like you get to a certain point where you're paying X amount, and then the higher you pay, you're getting less and less and less and less and less of where your production versus what you're paying them is going up. It's like, is it worth paying $15 million for an A player when you can get a B or a B plus player, for 10 or less? Is kind of where I'm at. I mean, I know the continuity thing and all that, but I just feel like, I don't know. Brandon Sheriff has at times during his career kind of disappeared, and we've had other guys play in his position and done all right. I mean, he's an interior offensive lineman. I'm not saying that you can just pull them off of the street, but he's not high on my list of like, if we lose Brandon Sheriff, I'm not going to be going, oh man, what are we going to do?
Now, if
100% me either, but I'm just saying, I mean, look at the left side. Obviously, the last couple of years, it's been kind of sewed up a little bit, but before that, it was literally a revolving door. It's always been a hole. The interior has always been a problem. Like you said, I agree. Chase Roulier is probably more important than Brandon Sheriff because he's the one calling out all the fronts. He's the one pointing out the mics and all that stuff. So he's calling all the line, audibles, all the shifts, all the coverages, all the blocking schemes. But again, you can't deny all pro and all pro talent.
Right.
And again, I definitely get the $15 million thing, but at the end of the day, again, it's just like a quarterback. A quarterback could be a decent player, but he's going to demand whatever the market is going to pay him. So it's not Brandon Sheriff's fault that the market is demanding $15 million. And if you look at Rivera's history, he wants to run the ball and play good defense. In order to run the ball, you're going to need all pro or great talented linemen.
Right. Now,
that's all I'm saying.
I'm right there with you, Hall, and I also agree, Brady, with what you were saying. I definitely think that Chase Roulier and Morgan Moses are both criminally underrated amongst Washington fans. But I also do think that, surprisingly, there's a good amount of Washington fans that really notice what Roulier and Moses have done this year, and that they do think that maybe they are more valuable than Sheriff. I've heard a lot of people pile on Sheriff lately. But yeah, I mean, I think if Sheriff ended up playing where he was supposed to play originally when he was drafted, like if he was a tackle, then it would be like, all right, you got to keep him. You have to. If he's a first team All Pro and he's a tackle, you have to keep him no matter what. But a guard, I could understand where it would be, okay, well, you just kind of got to move on to the next one. But I hope we re-sign him. I really hope we do, because I do think that our line struggled in the beginning of the year with him. He left. They played a lot worse. He came back. All of a sudden, they're playing fantastic. So I think that Sheriff really does make a pretty big difference.
And you bring up a valid point. One of
mine
at 15 mil per. The one issue that I have with paying Brandon that kind of money is that he has missed a lot of games, and that cannot be argued. Somebody like Morgan Moses, who has battled through injuries throughout his career, has done incredibly well. I know he hasn't. This was his best season by far, but I'm just mean that he has battled through injuries. Sheriff has missed a lot of time, and the one thing that executives always think when they're trying to extend guys, I'm doing it off of what you're projected to do, not what you have done, and that's where it kind of brings in the doubt in my mind. Because if Sheriff already has been injured at a younger age, once you get older, it's going to become more liable. And so that's why if Brandon is willing to take a team-friendly deal, I'm 100% for it. I understand. I know he's not going to, but some people just are different. You know what I mean? Some people just do it, and good teams have guys take team-friendly deals all the time. All the time it happens.
What is the age-old thing? The best ability is not a disability.
And that would be my only knock on giving him the money. Like you guys said, is disability.
Were you trying to say? Say the best ability is availability?
I don't know what I'm trying to say. All I can focus on is this goddamn cold hot coffee that I ordered from Dunkin' Donuts. And they ruined it, and it's freezing. And I just feel like I'm sitting here drinking what should be an iced coffee with no ice in it, and it's just I can't get my mind off of it.
Ridiculous.
That is the bougiest. That is like you're being.
That was mighty white of me.
You're being so basic right now.
Yeah, that was pretty white.
Basic.
I will.
Fantastic question from
right
Sean.
Now?
I actually am. Yeah.
All right, let's go on to Mike's question. Mike has a fantastic question for us. Who is on IR currently and will be back next season? making a huge impact? And I'll start with you, Hall. I can smell them from here. Your slippers.
Smell like broken dreams.
It's broken dreams.
The obvious one is Sadiq Charles. He'll be back next year just because he's a rookie, second year coming in. He's on IR.
Only talk about Charles then. Don't steal anybody else's.
Oh, all right, but well, Sadiq Charles.
Yeah, that's a great.
And he's
one.
going to contribute probably. So.
What about you, Freddie? Who is somebody that's on IR? Do you think is going to make a big impact next season for the Washington football team?
Oh, the dude who's going to make the absolute biggest impact that I was missing all year as the Greek god.
Yeah.
Matt Ioannidis.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer. And in my opinion, I think it's Kelvin Harmon. I think he's going to step right in at wide receiver, and he's going to bring a huge sigh of relief. I'm not giving up on Cam Sims at all. I still think that he deserves a shot. The one-handed grab in Pittsburgh, in my opinion, was the play of the year. So I think that Kelvin Harmon coming to this wide receiving core that's already depleted. Everyone seems to forget about Kelvin. And there was a video that he uploaded to Twitter today of him running inside of the dome at Gibbs Way at Ashburn. So he's getting up there, he's getting ready, and he should be ready for the start of the season. So in my opinion, it's Kelvin Harmon.
Right. Oh, yeah. So I was asked this question earlier. I was on Andy's pod, and we had the same question, and we went with Harmon and the real Greek freak, not Antetokounmpo, you know. But I'm gonna change up since you guys all took people, and there's really only so many people that I can go with. I'm gonna go with somebody who played a little bit, who got hurt, and is gonna have a huge chip on their shoulders based off of what happened this year, and that's Landon Collins. He has a contract to live up to. Cameron Curl came out and showed that he's expendable as hell. And I hope that he comes in, does whatever the team asks him to do, and just balls out because we're going to need it. But he was not my first choice. He's like my fourth choice. But you guys took everything else.
And then Mike's next question, it's kind of – I think this is a good topic of discussion. Should they wait a year to draft a quarterback and spend their draft picks and free agents this year in being able to build the team in order to be able to get that quarterback next year? What do you think about that, Freddie?
No, because you can't say wait and then just expect to be in a certain spot next year. Because this is something also, every year is a bubble. No team is ever the exact same. Mm-hmm. I mean, because you always have different players, you have different situations, you have another year, you have all of the other things. And we're not dealing with, with cogs in a machine. These are all people. They're all humans. They all have their own bullshit that goes on in their lives, everything else around them. So
feelings.
So you never get the same. Well, I don't know, some maybe.
Unless they're
sociopaths. But I mean, you can't. No, you can't think in those terms. Like, you got to be able to, you got to get it done. You got to get it done today, and you got to work with what you got. You can't just deal with you can't hope in hypotheticals. That's how you lose. I mean, it's the same adage, with coaches who say, potential will get you fired, and it will, and if you're banking on, maybe we'll hit on a quarterback next year. Let's say that we improve, okay, but we're still kind of like middling. So let's say that we don't make a move and we end up picking similarly to where we're picking before, and we're picking next year and we still can't get a quarterback. Then your whole argument and all that goes out the window, and we're sitting around with our thumb stuck up our ass wondering what the fuck we're doing.
Right. And that's a great question and a great response by you, Freddie. Mike, I will say, for a team like the Jets, that makes a lot of sense for somebody like them who kind of has a young roster, doesn't really have the pieces in place. So, build your roster up and then go get your quarterback if you're not sold on Sam Darnold. But for the Washington football team, I don't feel that same way. They have the pieces in place. They have the team already built. I know the wide receivers aren't stacked. They're not blowing anybody off the stat line. But the fact is that with a quarterback in place, you can really go and do things. And with their first place schedule next year, going against the Chiefs and other great teams that they're going to have to face, you're going to need a quarterback to be able to contend with those guys. And so in my opinion, you go get the quarterback now. I don't think it's through the draft, because at 19, I don't think there's going to be anybody there of substance that can play well next season that's going to be there at 19. And I sure as hell do not want to trade up into the top 10 from 19, because you're going to have to give up a lot of assets for that, and the Washington football team needs a lot of depth to be able to be back to where they were last year. So no, I don't think you need to wait. What about you, Reed?
You're trading up, then you're hypothetically trading up to get a guy who might be the guy.
Right.
Maybe. And then the other thing, like my favorite guy in the draft right now is Trey Lance, who could slip, but Trey is not going to be ready for at least a year anyway.
Oh yeah, he's got to sit for at least a year. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I've ruminated on this question before. I've sat and ruminated on it, let it stew a little bit, and thought about it. And the crazy thing, as crazy as this might sound, like I know it kind of feels like our window just opened, but that window is also closing very fast in order for us to make some noise and really become a contender. The teams that you see every single year that are contenders are the Packers. You know, any team that Tom Brady's on, the Chiefs. All these teams have a quarterback in place. There's somebody that they have a good coaching staff, good quarterback, and they're set. We need a quarterback in order to contend. We have a fantastic defense. We can have some excellent playmakers on offense, but it doesn't really matter if you don't have the guy in today's NFL. You need to get a quarterback. And next year, I don't think that there's going to be 18 quarterbacks available that are starter quality. Like this year, there's so many different teams are going to be changing quarterbacks. That's going to probably set an NFL record. It's going to be nuts. So you got to find a way to get somebody who's a capable starter and at least an upgrade over what you had last year. Hopefully even get the guy.
Yeah, and I look, because early in the offseason, like a couple weeks ago, I was even saying you don't need a big-time quarterback. You can build up a great team and be able to dominate and do well. Like
it's not the early 2000s.
But then I thought about it, and I was like, dude, that's actually not the case. I mean, look at the Rams right now. They have Jared Goff. They just announced today
they may switch quarterback. They
said it's an open competition between Goff and Wolford. And I know that people were talking about getting Jared Goff this offseason. Why would you even want that at this point? He only did well because of Sean McVay's offense.
I've always said one thing about Jared Goff. I'm not going to say it because last time I said it, it got me in trouble.
Yes, it did.
But you guys remember what it is, and I still feel that way about him, and I don't want him anywhere near this.
No, I don't want him either. So, but I changed my tune. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, definitely. What's the saying go? The future is now. So we got to go out there and get our future literally right now. Like Reed just said, it's going to be one of those. It's going to be historic quarterback movement in the offseason that's coming up right now. There's going to be at least probably like 7, 8, 9, 10 quarterbacks on the move, if not even more. And we got to be in play for one of those guys. And like everyone's been saying for a while now, we got to have one of those at least top 16 to 15 guys. You got to be in the top half of the league to be able to win now.
And that's if you have a good team around them,
good team around them. So if we're able to put pieces like another wide receiver, like everyone's been talking about, add that quarterback that's going to be a top half league guy, and go forward with that, I think that our window stays open for just enough time to make some noise.
Yeah. Ooh. Now I wanted, before we get on to other fan questions, I wanted to ask you guys, let's formulate a QB list, right? So the QB rankings for the possible ones that are going to be available in the offseason, right? We know Watson is there, obviously, at number one. Stafford at number 2. But who would you go with at number 3, Reed?
Personally, I know I might get a lot of stuff for this because I like him, a lot of other people don't. But Derek Carr, I like Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr is a lot better than people have given him credit for. I still don't understand why the Raiders are so hell-bent, it seems like, on moving on from him just about every offseason for the last few years. I think that if he came here, he could definitely win on this team, and he could take us pretty far. So I would say he's number 3.
Oh my
just
God.
a notch below Stafford.
I said that months ago, and everyone killed me for it.
I absolutely hate that.
I know, Kyle, because you hate good things.
No, dude, Carr puts up good stat lines and everything, but nobody can tell me a time when Derek Carr literally took control of the dude.
Yeah, his second or third season.
We got Chase Young.
His second or third season in the league when he was in the running for MVP when he got hurt at the end of the year.
I understand.
He was that guy, and then every single player on the Raiders said when he got drafted and he was there as a rookie and he replaced, I forgot who it was who he replaced, but they were like, you could just tell Derek was the guy because the way the ball came off his hand is so much different than I've ever seen it come off of anybody else's hand ever. So they were just said there's something about him. So I think in the right setting, I don't think he's ever been Gruden's guy. So I think Gruden's kind of been like, yeah, man, we're going to move on from him, man. Oh, man, we can always get something better, man.
But Gruden has only had him for a short amount of time. Look at the quarterbacks that were in the playoffs this season. One being the homie Josh Allen, taking control of his team. Without a doubt, he controlled that team. Aaron Rodgers, without a doubt, obviously he controls the team. One of the best quarterbacks in the league. Pat Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league, obviously. Yeah, and then Tom Brady, the GOAT. These guys control their teams. They have a presence about them. Carr does not give me that kind of alpha mentality at the quarterback position. And that's the kind of guy that I'm looking for. When Alex Smith is on the field, it's Alex Smith's team. Everyone knows that. He commands that respect and that leadership. I just have never gotten that feeling from Carr, and that's why I just cannot stand
real quick rebuttal, though. What about the Tennessee Titans with Ryan Tannehill? Ryan Tannehill, they're
took control of that team.
They're a fantastic team. He's not the guy there. Derrick Henry's the guy there. Their coach, Mike Vrabel's the guy there. They have good wide receivers as well. I mean, you get somebody. He was a bum in Miami. You get somebody who can come over here and actually be decent with a good team around him. I think you're set up.
No, I understand, but have you seen the commercials? With
no, you're just saying. But I'm just
Ryan
saying,
Tannehill. Like Ryan Tannehill is the leader of that team. He took control of that team, and as much as I know that they have other great,
but how hard is it to take control of the team from Marcus Mariota? The guy doesn't even.
That was only one offseason. I'm talking about his whole career. But I'm just saying he just kind of seems like that kind of beta that falls into the backside. So that's why I'm not with Carr. But for me at 3, I would go with Darnold. I think that Darnold is probably
I'm a huge Darnold guy too.
Is probably the best option for the team right now at 3. Who would you go with, Hall?
Yeah, I would put probably Derek Carr at 3 for me, but he's not like actually on the market per se. There's no reports out there.
Neither is Darnold, but we're just having fun here, bud.
I know. I'm just saying, like, it's more hypothetical that Darnold moves on because of the draft position they're in. But I'm just saying, though. Now, I would probably put Darnold number 3 for me just because, again, he's another guy I've been beating the drum for. We only got to give up a first-round pick for him just because of how bad he's kind of played throughout his, stay in New York.
It's just been because he's been with the Jets.
Exactly, and I think like we'd be able to give up maybe a second, and we have 2 thirds, so maybe one of the thirds and a fifth, or like a fourth, something like that. So we'd be able to still keep our pick at 19, do whatever we got to do with that, move up, move down, pick someone there, get our quarterback for the next X amount of years, hopefully if he pans out, which I think he will under a different coordinator because look at everybody that leaves Adam Gase, they just prosper so much better.
Right.
And so I would definitely put Sam Darnold number 3.
All 3 of us.
I can think someone else.
All 3 of us have talked about how much we like Sam Darnold and how we just think he needs a change of scenery. That's really all he needs, and I think he'll flourish. I love Darnold.
What about you,
I just thought of something else, though. I'll save him for 4.
What about you, Freddie? Who is after Carr and Darnold for you after we just laid out the ranking?
Yeah, it was fun. I was waiting to name Darnold because I was actually going to put – I would actually put Darnold ahead of Carr.
Thank you.
But to be honest with you, I mean, I would put Jimmy G ahead of Carr.
Okay, no. I'm just kidding. No, I hate Jimmy G. I'm not a Jimmy G guy.
I'm not a Jimmy. The best thing Jimmy G did was take a
porn
porn star out on a date.
If we're talking about looks, Jimmy G is top of the line. Though.
This is the thing. I'm not a fan of Derek Carr, nor am I a fan of Jimmy G.
Right.
I mean, but
I know,
say what you want, but at least, at least Jimmy G has played well and delivered in some big games, and Derek Carr has not.
Yeah, solid point.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, like he's got the resume there, and he's shown what he can do with the team. I mean, you have an elite defense, and you put playmakers around him. What are we trying to do right now?
And that's exactly what I'm saying. Saying with Derek Carr, I think you do that with Carr. I think he's better than Jimmy G. But I do think you're right. I think Jimmy G would even actually end up being successful here with this team around him. I don't want him. I don't want him.
He can't stay healthy.
And he wouldn't have a Kyle Shanahan. That I will admit.
He doesn't elevate the play. I will say I have Carr over Jimmy G.
I'm surprised Kyle doesn't
not a Jimmy G guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're surprised Kyle doesn't have who?
Cam Newton at number 3.
Oh yeah, Kyle. What about your boy?
Dude, when I heard he was asking for $20 million, I shot that dude down the list.
And you're like 20. You should ask for 30. I would have given you 40.
No, but the reason why I was so adamant about Cam was obviously I said it because once it is passing, it was because the price I thought he'd be less than 10 mil. The familiarity with the offense, he's a leader on and off the field. He doesn't get any issues off the field, really. The dude, you never hear any bad news about him. And Ron Rivera absolutely loves him. So, like, that's why when I heard the 20 mil, I was like, okay, no, you're out of the realm. Like, I never thought that Cam would be at the top of this list. You know, it wasn't like I was saying he was one of the best quarterbacks out there. It was just because he was cheap relative to the scheme, and he's a leader. And that's why I thought it was the best fit. But it wasn't like I'm sitting here clamoring saying Cam Newton's the best option and go get him.
Yeah, no, I'm just giving you shit.
That's not happening.
Love beating the Cam Newton drum.
I know. I absolutely love it. Now, let's move on to Jesse's question. Do we need to upgrade the O-line, or do we just go with what we have and look at other areas since we played decent last year, Freddie?
I don't really think that you have to mess with the O-line. I mean, I think the O-line, I mean, they really came on towards the end of the year. They got good chemistry. I mean, I know we've been beating the Brandon Sheriff thing all over the place, but I mean, I feel good with Cornelius Lucas. I feel good with Wes Schweitzer. I mean, and of course with with Sadiq Charles coming back and playing on the interior, I mean, if he can be a better option at left, or depending on what's going to happen with Sheriff, I mean, I feel good about all that. And would it be great to have a quote unquote elite left tackle? Sure. Because we went from Chris Samuels to Trent Williams, which was amazing because we haven't had to worry about left tackle for 20 years but
Absolutely
but I feel like there's other teams that have done really, really well, teams that have won championships that have shown you don't need a Pro Bowl left tackle. You just need a consistent line, period. Yeah. So, I feel good with the line we got.
And that's one thing that Ron Rivera has. We've talked about it 1,000 times on here. That's one thing Ron Rivera has always done. They've never really had stars on that offensive line in Carolina, yet they always played very well together as a unit. So I think you're 100% right. Like I've been saying, all these mock drafts and stuff that have us taking a left tackle in round 1. I'm just like, guys, stop. The offensive line is not. We have so many more other needs right now. Like it depends on who's there. If Christian Darrisaw is somebody's there that they really like and he's just that much better than everybody, then yeah, you take him. But I don't think that that's as pressing as a need. I think Cornelius Lucas played fantastic. I think that you can make your team better by drafting a wide receiver, a linebacker, somebody of that sort early. And I do think that, like you said, having Sadiq Charles come back and not only being able to play the interior, but also possibly being able to be a swing tackle and filling at both tackle positions, because he's also played right tackle at his career at LSU very, very early on. So he's somebody who has experience basically all over the line except for center. And I think that's only going to help this offensive line.
Yeah, and that's where I'm in. I do think they need to upgrade on the O-line, because I think the best way for them to go about this offseason is not re-signing Sheriff, moving Sadiq Charles to right guard, allowing Wes Schweitzer to stay there at left, and then you're kind of stuck with where's the depth. And that's where I think at that 19th pick, they could trade back and get one of these tackles or get a Jackson Carman in the second or third round.
You love that guy so much.
Dude, I read the scouting report on him for Pro Football Focus, and they love him. He only gave up one pressure against 4 DNs that were like top 10.
That's fine. He's terrible.
No, he's not.
Yeah. He is. That's why he's going to play guard in the NFL.
No, he's not. He's going to play
Yes, he is. He's going to play guard.
I'll bet you $20.
Let's do it right now. You guys heard it here first. He might start out as a tackle, then they're going to realize how slow and not good he is, and he's going to get kicked inside the guard.
You got to bring Reed some coffee that's actually hot.
Some hot coffee.
Yeah.
Hot coffee.
Yeah, great question, Jesse, by the way. Great question. Hall, did you answer that?
No, I did not. I don't remember what the question was. We got so sidetracked.
As usual. It's fine. It was basically, should we upgrade the O-line?
Oh, yeah. No, like I said, I'm good with where we're at right now. Give some money to Brandon Sheriff. If you want to draft somebody in a mid-round, you want to bring in a lower-end free agent to add some depth, I'm 100% for it. But it's like Doc said on Tuesday, that he wants his guys to be able to play each position, a lot of diversity. And that's what Ron Rivera was talking about last year. I think they were teaching all the linemen every single position. So if you can continue to do that, you already have built-in depth just based off of that. So if you want to add, like I said, a middle tier or a lower tier, like free agent to come in, like an interior or outside guy, maybe draft someone in the middle rounds, I'm 100% for that. But continuity is what I'm looking for. So keep that line intact.
But remember Morgan Moses randomly switched over to left tackle for a game. Remember that during the season? How incredible that was? Good for him. He played well. Hadn't played there since Virginia.
Yeah, and look, earlier in the offseason, I was beating the drum that Jackson Carman's going to be a first-round pick, and now I'm kind of saying I hope he falls to the second or third round, because that would be a great pick.
In the third round or so, I would take him for sure. Yeah. It's just we were arguing, and you were saying he was better than Penei Sewell this summer.
I definitely think so.
Hall remembers that. And I think that we're just in there, and I think one of us has a big lead right now in this debate.
Yeah, but like Mel Kiper's always wrong, so who cares?
It doesn't. I don't care about Mel Kiper.
Who the hell is Mel Kiper anyway?
Yeah, see, Freddie gets it. I don't care about Mel.
There's a guy who's never been an executive. He's never put on a jock strap. He's in the papers telling who they should take, who they shouldn't take. We don't have to take anyone Mel Kiper says we have to take. I'll
tell you one thing, Todd. This guy is terrific. He's going to come in here. He's going to be a franchise left tackle from day one. Now, is he going to go out there? Is he going to be a Chris Samuels? I'm not sure, but he is going to be. Mel Kiper is such a weasel. He's just a little weasel that comes out. He's like a what are those? That thing that sees its shadow, a groundhog. He's like a groundhog. He comes out, he sees its shadow, and it's 11 more months of NFL draft
Great
season.
head of hair, though. Great head of hair.
He does, and he does look like an owl. I don't give a hoot.
Now, let's move on to the next question from Viscount JBG. Realistically, how many free agents is the Washington football team likely to sign given their cap space? And right now they're projected with $43 million with, let's just say Alex Smith's going to be on the roster and they don't re-sign Sheriff. So they're going to have $43 million in cap space. How many free agents do you think they'll be able to sign, Reed?
I don't know. I mean, it really depends on what level they go after. I mean, last year, I think they did the smart thing going after these kind of mid-level to low-level guys that they really scouted and did their homework on, and they knew they could bring in for cheap. And they also swung for the fences with Amari Cooper. I think that they're definitely in a better position now to land somebody closer to an Amari Cooper level. Of course, like you guys have been saying, they got to get the quarterback position figured out. But it's tough to say how many they're going to bring in because every year it's so different, and I haven't really looked at the contracts or anything, but I would imagine that there will be definitely some competition brought in and definitely some positions of need that they're going to bring in here via free agency as opposed to looking at it through the draft.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a couple guys, maybe a playmaker and then possibly a linebacker. KJ Wright out of Seattle, Levante David is going to be available in free agency as well. So I think they're going to be able to get a couple of those guys without having to spend heavily. I think they're going to continue their MO that they had last year of getting these guys that aren't necessarily at the top of the list, but are young and are productive and can still contribute in a big way. So I definitely think that that's going to be the area that they're going to go down.
And they were right about so many of those guys.
They were, absolutely. What
amazing.
About you, Freddie?
I think you got to go by position. I mean, I'm not just going to throw out an arbitrary number like, oh, they're going to bring in 6 guys, they're going to bring in 8 guys, because it really depends a lot on who they sign early, the first 1 or 2 guys,
right?
And what the numbers with their contracts is, what
and
we're
who
looking
they
at. But that's true. Who we keep in house, but
Darby.
I would put money on saying that we will probably bring in at least 2 free agent wide receivers.
That's what I've
One of
been
them's
saying.
probably going to
we double up.
We're going to bring in 2 when we're either going to keep 2 or one of them is going to get cut, but we're going to bring in at least 2. And then I also think, just like you said with the competition thing, I wouldn't be surprised if we brought in a linebacker, safety, depending on what happens with the whole corner thing. I would like to re-sign Darby and keep him here because that proved to be a good tandem. I still think that Fuller is better in the slot, but they paid him. They paid him money to be a starting corner, so that's what he's gonna do, So and then, I don't know, man, because there's not a lot of, who are the big tight ends gonna be in free agency? Like, might bring in some.
There's I think there's Gronk is supposed to be out there, but I don't even think I think tight end we're gonna end up getting somebody in the mid rounds of the draft, and I think with wide receiver we're gonna double up, either take 2 in the draft or take 1 in free agency in the draft or something like that. But we're definitely gonna double up a receiver.
I'd still like to get somebody in that tight end room with some experience whose name is not Jeremy Sprinkle.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, there's guys like Pat Freiermuth, Brevin Jordan. I did a mock draft before we started recording, and I was able to get Brevin in the 3rd round. I think that's probably one of the best things that could possibly happen for this team.
Very similar to Jordan Reed.
The league is moving towards a 2 tight end set kind of centric offense, and that would be perfect
there since
for them.
Aaron Hernandez, brother.
12 personnel.
Now, this next question from Paul Murphy is for Hall. I'm going to start out with you first. Kenny Galladay or Marvin Jones, would they be a good fit for the Washington football team at wide receiver?
Of course not. Like, what do you just like? Nah, yeah, of course they would. Again, Kenny Galladay. I know he had like an injury history this upcoming year. I don't think he's had that much of an injury history in the past. Obviously, he's been a bona fide number 1 with Matt Stafford up in Detroit.
Yep.
But again, I'm more looking to. If we can land our Galladay or like Allen Robinson, obviously I'm 100% down for that. I'll take them any day of the week and twice on Sunday. But I'm looking to spend more, like I said, the tier 2 guys, the Marvin Joneses, the Curtis Samuels.
Curtis Samuels.
We've been talking about left tackle so much.
Samuels like 4 times.
I know. Because we're talking about Washington, so the first Samuels that pops in my head is Chris Samuels.
One of them's small and one of them's really big.
Yeah, right. But yeah, Curtis Samuels, but even like a Corey Davis, who I think
he's going to demand a lot though.
Yeah, he's more of a tier 2 guy, but he might get lower in tier 1 type money. Yeah. So definitely, like I said, Marvin Jones with those tier 2 guys, I'm down with. But if we can land one of the big fish, reel them on in.
Dude, Marvin Jones is like one of those guys that just doesn't age. You know,
Yeah.
it feels like 15 years ago when he was on Cincinnati's like Hard Knocks and he had like 9 kids. It's like, dude, how are you still in the league and playing so well? I think you're right about that.
He's got 9 kids, bro.
Yeah. Well, usually that'll age you a little bit more.
You know what I'm saying? You got to pay for all these kids.
You got to keep playing and pay for all them kids, like Phillip Rivers.
Damn, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do think that Marvin Jones would be a great fit because he's a vet wide receiver. You could step right in, and he has proven to be productive regardless of what team he's on. So Marvin Jones, I think, would be a great fit, obviously. And then Kenny Galladay, I would love to be able to get him, but based on what the projected cap space is, I just don't think Washington's going to be in the running for that. Like Hall said, they're going to have to go for the tier 2 or tier 3 guys, and I'm really cool with that. I'm fine with that. I don't think you don't need to overpay for wide receiver at this point. There's lots of talent in the draft, but you do need depth, and getting a guy like Marvin Jones could bring that immediately.
And Marvin Jones, in my opinion, is the perfect number 2 wide receiver. He's not going to demand one. He's been such a good number 2 wide receiver for so long.
It's been his whole career. Exactly.
He could just be opposite Terry, and then you can go in the draft, find somebody. But yeah, this is such a deep draft that I think you really need one of those tier 2 guys. Don't have to overspend, and then you also look in the draft and get somebody relatively early. And I think then you're good. You're set. But obviously, everybody would love to have a Chris Godwin, Allen Robinson, or a Kenny Galladay. But I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, agreed. What about you, Freddie?
Chris Godwin's my dude, but we ain't.
He dropped a bunch of balls versus Washington, crucial balls too.
Yeah. Well, so never mind.
I'll chalk that up to his first playoff game.
No, all you got to do, you get him in here, coach him up a little bit, man. He's your guy.
You get him running that spider through Y banana, man. Oh man. Then you get some chicks for Jay.
Some young chicks, and then he's gonna sit Indian style.
Yeah. What a weird guy.
Dude, so weird. Like the fact that like you think that at that point, like you're a coach in the NFL, like you don't think people are gonna recognize you, and you're sitting outside like Indian style.
He was so done with life, just being stuck with this franchise and not getting fired yet. He was just like, I don't even care. Catch me. I don't care at this point. Yeah.
Poor Jay.
I want to be a fly on the wall in that meeting with Capri Bibbs, bro.
Yeah, I would love that too. I would pay money. You know what? I would pay money to see some. I didn't even hear about that. New York Giants during towards the end of the year, the middle of the year. Mark Colombo, their offensive line coach, and Joe Judge apparently got into a fist fight.
Throwing hands.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Shout out to Joe Judge. Mark Colombo is like 6'6", 330.
Yeah.
Joe Judge.
And you can probably tell Colombo beat his ass because he got fired right after.
100%. But just the fact that he went after him,
that
that's
definitely
true.
Happened.
Dude, Joe Judge, good for you, man. Respect.
Yeah,
Colombo's a huge dude. You're right.
And the other thing that happened, I felt terrible because the lineman Wheeler from the Seahawks got released yesterday because he beat up his girlfriend. I mean, he literally beat her face in.
I thought you were saying you felt bad that you got released. I was like,
then he strangles her, and then he goes and I think she said he went and started eating cereal.
Oh, you're still alive or some shit
and
like
she
that?
walked in. He was like, "Oh, you're still alive, huh?" And there's my goodness, dude.
Yeah.
Terrible stuff.
That's almost like that one time that football player killed his wife and a waiter out in California. Got his Heisman Trophy taken away.
What?
Oh man.
O.J. Simpson.
Oh my God, dude.
Jesus.
Oh.
Yeah, but see, that was.
You said Heisman.
That was a different situation though. He wasn't an active player though, so it's not the.
And I mean, let's be real. I mean, don't be sneaking around on OJ.
I'm just, the glove didn't fit. The glove don't fit. You must have quit.
You must have quit.
Quit.
I've been watching that show lately.
Don't make sense.
He did.
South Park, dude.
It's so funny.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode. It's been a pleasure, Freddie. Thank you so much for being able to join us. And,
thank you, Freddie.
Talking football with us, dude. I'm glad that we were finally able to get this done, sir.
Appreciate y'all having me. Always love chopping it up with all y'all, man. Kyle, I got to give props to you, bro, just because you've been down. You've been a real one from the very beginning, and I've been wanting to come on and talk to Hall, chop it up with Reed. You guys do such a good job, man. I just sit back and I listen to y'all, and I'm just in awe of every week. So Just
Appreciate
love it.
that.
Appreciate y'all thinking enough of me to have me be a guest on your show, man.
Hey, and I appreciate you, and I especially appreciate that jersey that you're wearing.
Yeah.
I like that color.
It's the
I
gray
like that
edition of
color.
the 91 Kerrigan jersey. That thing
Yeah.
is fresh, Freddie.
Right.
But if you guys haven't already, go check out Freddie and Maddie Jane's podcast, the HTWeAre Podcast.
Fantastic.
You can find them in iTunes. You can find them, I believe, on Spotify as well. And go and like and subscribe to them. They are fantastic. Freddie edits everything, and he added a kind of background music that's not overly you hear it the whole time, but it's soothing. It's there for you the whole episode. You just feel like things are going. It's very, very well done. It's probably one of the most professional ones that we have in the fan base, but it's hard.
I'm actually gonna hire Freddie to make me a Nookie playlist. That's what we're gonna call it. Just nice smooth music in the background for me to be very unsmooth and fast too. It'll only need to be about 30 seconds, but it'll be good.
And actually the funny thing is a lot of if you have listeners who haven't listened to HTWeAre before, if you have listeners that listen to DC Tweet, they hear me every week. Because the intros that DC Tweet uses, I don't know if anybody noticed.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, those intros are me.
Are they? Are they? I was on Andy's pod today earlier. Coming out tomorrow.
Yeah.
We got asked a lot of the questions that were on.
Yeah,
there
like,
today.
subscribe.
Oh,
we're
really?
on all of those platforms.
them.
Buy a T-shirt too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
there
speaking
you
of
go.
a T-shirt, please go on to silverfx.co.uk and buy our merchandise for the Burgundy Zone. 15% of our quarterly earnings go to the Wounded Warrior Project to be able to support the pod, represent the pod, but also being able to support our armed forces and our veteran guys that really sacrificed a lot for us. The least we could do is give back to them as much as they've given to us.
And I'll tell you what, I ordered 3 things. I had to order that snapback. That snapback was super crisp. And then I had to go back afterwards, and I was like, I got to get that Letterman jacket. I got to get it. So I went back and I had to get that. So there's some good stuff out there.
Absolutely. So make
Kyle,
sure you guys
I want your hat. I want the hat that you wear. It's like famous, but can you sign it? Can you autograph it from the Podfather?
That's what I was just about to say. Andy told me today that they call you the Podfather.
Yeah.
I was not aware of this. I did not know that you were the Podfather. Is that? And then I told Andy, I was like, did you guys call him that? Because there was that one time you guys heard that story about when he cut that horse's head off and left it in that person's bed.
Oh God! Don't give people any ideas. I'm sorry.
Let me
Peter,
tell
he's
you,
lying.
every week, you guys are recording. You guys very nice, but you're recording a podcast with a living legend.
The Podfather.
Look what they did to my boy. Right.
You should show up next week with some cotton swabs on the inside. I'm gonna ask you a bunch of
All
questions.
right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Or you can show up like Robert De Niro. You can show up and you can say shows. These shows. I got my eye on you, Falker. I got my eye on you. As long as you have the face, you can. It doesn't matter how you sound.
So true.
Oh my God.
All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
And I was gonna call you the Podfather, but that cat's out of the bag and he didn't go back in. So I'm Mike, still drinking this goddamn cold coffee.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you tune in on Tuesday. We have a brand new episode for you. Freddie, we love you, brother. Appreciate you. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. Washington football. Woo! Washington football. Woo!